I mean, this is an overstimulated society. I'm gonna shock some of these young folks today. Did y'all know we used to have to use a rotary telephone? And I've got pictures. We used to have to use a rotary telephone. How many remembers that? And I'll tell you what I loved. I loved it when they put them on the wall. That rotary telephone on the wall. And after a while, they came out with 25, 30-foot cords. Ben can tell you about it. He worked for General Telephone for a lot of years. Come out with these 25-foot. I mean, you could actually, we thought we were uptown. You could leave the kitchen and you could go to the den and talk to somebody. You could. I know y'all don't believe that, but it's the truth. And after those rotary telephones came the, remember, push button. You talking about high cotton, huh? Wow, push button telephones. We thought we had arrived. We did. And then we got I mean, it was as big as a suitcase. The cell phone. You could carry this thing with you in the car. I mean, you had to carry it under your arm. Did y'all ever have one like that? I did. Big old thing. And then we really got fancy. We really got fancy, and next we got a beeper. That means you could be in a restaurant somewhere, or you could be out of town and somebody could call your number and you could go to a phone somewhere. And we had payphone. If you had the money, you could take your beeper and you could go anywhere and you could call somebody from a payphone. Now we have something we call smartphones. Have those, and we've got iPads, we've got Kindles, tablets. We've got all that stuff. And we're still bored. I've even got some pictures. I tell you, we've become ridiculous with these cell phones, y'all. And you know it's the truth. I think I got a picture or two they're going to bring up. There we are. You can't eat. You can't eat lunch. You can't even talk to the person across from you because everybody at the table, their head is in the phone. And some of you that are using the phone for the Bible this morning, I'm not after you, I promise. That's just the technology of today. I mean, but it's gotten so bad. There are people sitting in their home that will text a family member in another room. It's the truth. I mean, they will not get up and they... Juanita said you ought to know. Look, honest confession is good for the soul. It's good for the soul, honey. Yes?
There's a new disease now. It's called tech neck. Because of you bending down and looking at your cell phone on top, it's
Actually bothering people's neck.
It's called tech.
It's called tech neck. I don't want tech neck. But it's become ridiculous. I think we've got another picture too. I mean, you think it's getting bad. I'm just telling you. Now, y'all, it's just about that bad. I mean, there are people buying they're buying, honestly, 3 and 4 year olds, they're buying them cell phones. We live in an age where people just cannot be satisfied. That is a slippery slope. We need to be careful. The whole family now has some kind of device. Our marriages in this day and time, they don't satisfy, so we will go and get an extramarital relationship. You know what I mean? One house will not satisfy, so we'll go buy 2 or 3. 10 channels don't do it anymore, so we've got to have 110. Listen, even churches today have to provide the latest and the greatest, or won't anybody come? Listen, be warned, this is a slippery slope. An alcoholic starts with 1 drink and then slowly graduates to some harder stimulant. You could go on and on. A drug addict starts with smoking maybe a little cigarette, and then he graduates to smoking some kind of weed, and after that it goes on to the harder stuff. This happens also with prescription drugs. People get caught in the vice of prescription drugs. They never thought they would get hooked. A teenager starts looking at magazines in a grocery store, and then he's got to see an R-rated movie. And after that comes soft porn. And after that, there's the hard stuff. And then he wakes up one day as a young adult, and he's caught in a vice that he cannot get out of. And it's not just for the guys. I'm here to tell you the devil's after the young ladies too. Samson had been used to the power of God, the presence of God in his life. But he began to visit this girl that looked good to him, and he fell in love with her, and finally he lays his head in her lap, and the secret of his strength was the locks of his hair. She whacked off all of the locks of his hair, and the Bible says Samson woke up from that sleep. He got up from his sleep, and he went out, the Bible says, as at other times, and he shook himself just like he did when the presence of God was there. But this time, the Bible says he didn't know at first that the presence of God had gone. But then the enemy immediately came in because the presence of God was gone out of his life, and they gouged out his eyes. And thank God, God allowed Samson in the last day of his life to be restored and to kill more of the enemy than he had before. Thank God for that. But my point is, listen, the enemy is out to get us. He wants to get us so distracted by the things in this life that there's no time for God. There's no time for church. There's no time for prayer. There's no time for Bible study. He wants to get you so distracted, brothers and sisters, that you don't have time for that. Jesus commended Mary. Remember, Jesus commended Mary because she sat quietly at his feet, listening to his words. But he condemned Martha because of her busyness.